we're now going to set up continuous integration and continuous deployment for our Ember app. So let me make this nice and big. Get rid of some noise there. All right, so the first thing is you need to have two tools installed. You need to have the Heroku tool belt, I think they call it, and the Travis CI gem. And so I'll show you how you can tell that both of these are installed. You can do Travis help, and you should see a bunch of stuff here. And you should see the same thing for Heroku help. So these are both tools that let you kind of set things up and deploy them nice and easily. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to set Heroku up. And I'll do that the following way. Heroku apps, or Heroku create. And then I can actually pass in a name for my app. So I'm just going to call it FEM commonly. And it's going to go through, it's basically going to allocate a domain for me. And you see here, some of you may have gotten like a random name for your app. I just got to pick mine. The next thing is we want to set up the appropriate build pack, which again is all of the stuff that is necessary to build and run our app. Because remember, the way you push an app to Heroku typically is a git push. And so you're pushing the source code. And while Ember CLI is a build tool we know about, that's not necessarily true for some types of things that you would push. So build packs typically have like all of the stuff that's required to build and run your app, and it's run whenever you try to push to Heroku. So something that was pointed out to me in previous versions of this slide, I had my line continuation / in the wrong direction. Sorry if that screwed anybody up, but this is just one big line. So we'll go back to our terminal here, paste it, and it will set up our build pack. So now we can see that basically the build pack is set up, and at the next push is when the interesting stuff will happen. So all we need to do now, I'll show you one other thing. So we can see that we have a new Git remote set up. This happened when we ran Heroku create. So now we can just simply do git push Heroku master, and it's going to do its thing. So what you'll see is it looks to be a typical git commit, and then you see all of this stuff going, which is this is the build pack doing its thing. It's downloading node dependencies and Bower dependencies and building things up. And if it in fact encounters something bad or strange as part of the build process, it will halt, and you will not have finished that push to Heroku, which is nice because this is sort of a fail-safe, right? This means that if there's a problem building things, you will not end up with a partially built app in production. So this is going to go for a little while. While I'm waiting on this, I'm going to set up Travis CI. All of my massive GitHub noise is going to be everywhere. So I'm going to create a new repository, and I'm just going to call it well, I might have one that's already like that, so I'll call it commonly to deploy, and I'm going to make it a public repository, and we're going to create it. And the next thing you do when you're creating a new Git repository is it gives you instructions here, but you basically have to set up the origin. So while this is going, I'm just going to go over to another tab here. This is the same folder here. And I'm just going to call it origin 2. And I can do git push origin 2 master. And so that should now show up on GitHub, and it in fact does. All right, so now we're going to go to travisci.org. And be careful, .org is the free one, .com is the one that you pay for. We're going to sign in with GitHub. And the next step is we're going to basically tell Travis about our repository. Tell it that we wish to have it monitored. So you may not see your repository in this list. The way you refresh it for a newly created repo is you're going to click this button here. It looks like it may already be refreshing. So we'll wait for this little thing to stop. And while we're doing this, I'm just going to check on Heroku, see how that's going. All right, so Heroku looks like it was deployed, so I'm just going to see what that looks like. And I expect an error message here, but we'll see. Yes, OK. So I will show you what's going on here. What's happening is, it's a good segue into the next thing that we're building, but we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing with Fastboot. We're doing something that only exists in browser land, and it has to do with getting GPS coordinates. There is no browser when we're rendering on the server. So this is what's breaking here. OK, let's see. Commently to deploy. There it is. We're going to turn it on, and we can see there it is. So we haven't built it at all yet. So there are no builds for this repository. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this real quick, and I'm also going to add the Heroku deploy key here. So the way we do that is we do. Let me make sure I'm doing this correctly here. There's a nice like copy and paste command here that is basically never reveals the token. There it is. Travis encrypt the auth token and add it as the deploy API key. So for anyone who can't see, there it is. Don't need to remember it. Just go look at the docs. All right, and now if we do git diff, we'll see that a lot of stuff got changed in travis.yml. Don't be afraid of this. This is just what happens when Travis's command line tool reads your file in and writes it all out. It may reformat things and so on. But the important thing is this at the bottom. And I can, in fact, show you this because this is a key that is unique and encrypted with something that is paired with my GitHub repository. So only if you have access to this repository is this a useful piece of information, and only I'm the one that has access there. So this looks great to me. I'm just going to fix this build issue here by just removing Fastboot, and we'll add it in later. And I'm going to also add something that I may have forgotten to add earlier. So we're just adding broccoli filter. And I'm just going to push this. Push it to origin 2. Oops. Did not make a commit. All right, now we can push. And we should see that Travis will start to do some things. There it goes. So this is the continuous integration part, and it's going to start building our app and running all of our tests and so on. I don't want to waste your time, watching it go through the build process and have it deploy. So we're just going to push directly to Heroku again. And I expect that this will, in fact, fix it. So what was happening with this error that we were seeing, the internal server error, when we visited the Heroku deployment? It had to do with the fact that the build pack supports both static Ember apps, meaning client-side rendered Ember apps, where everyone gets the same index.html and the client-side JavaScript takes over from there. So it can handle that, and it can also handle Fastboot server-side rendered Ember apps. And if you have that add-on installed, Ember CLI Fastboot, it will build with Fastboot. We used something that geolocation API that only exists in browsers. There's really no sense of like geolocating wherever that server is in whatever data center, Heroku, or I guess this would be, Heroku's stuff in AWS is somewhere. We don't want to know what those coordinates are, nor does Node.js really support that. So in the next unit, we're going to add fast boot back in, and we're going to, we're going to think about how you mix browser behavior and server-side behavior together to get an improved user experience. So let's see if this works.
There's just a couple people with errors in chat. I don't know. Do you want to
I'll take a look
now or at a break?
I'll take a look in just a second. Let's see what's going on. Looks like my SRI integrity is not working here, like the sub-resource integrity.
I would love a solution for that because I see that time to time and have
You see this happen a lot?
Not a lot, but I've had it happen.
For now, I'm going to disable it as well, and I'm going to push again, and then I'm going to go to some of the errors that we're having in chat. So I'll go to code. We'll remove SRI just because we're just trying to push it up there.
You removed Ember CLA SRI?
I removed Ember CLI SRI. So SRI is sub-resource integrity. At build time, it does an MD5 hash of all of the JavaScript and CSS and images that you bring in, essentially making it so that if someone were to tamper with the contents of your CDN and change the file in some way, when the browser downloads it and compares the hash of that file against this integrity attribute, which was like the hash of the file at build time, if those don't match up, the browser will actually abstain from loading that file. So it is a nice way of defeating some man-in-the-middle attacks. I've never seen this one. I don't know why it's not cooperating, but we're gonna press on. And I promise I will give you a solution. While you guys are working on your stuff, I will work on this, and we'll have a solution there. So in chat, I'm seeing that undefined methods start with for nil class. I've never seen that. I need a little bit more context in order to help with that. So the application error is likely solved by getting rid of that Ember CLI fastboot. Here's something else that's useful with Heroku. If you run Heroku logs-t, this will tail the Heroku logs. And so you can see like basically incoming requests and any errors. You'll see the stack trace here. So this is what's happening if this is really monitoring the asset serving. It's important to understand that. It's not browser errors. This is like potentially build errors or deploy errors and so on. They're available here. So, okay, it looks like it's about to land. Launching, and it's available. Let's see what we got. There's the incoming request. Great. It wants to know my location. There's my deferred rendering there. OK, so here we are. So there's my latitude and longitude. Here, this is an app deployed to Heroku. And I apparently have a failing test or something here, which is, there it is. So my initializer test failed, probably because Phantom.js may not support geolocation. But you can see that one test failed, and so it stopped there. But as we go through these exercises, when I push my code to GitHub, I'll also push so we can see the deployed version is updating as well. And what I'm trying to help you guys understand here is this is ready to go for continuous integration with Travis CI. There are add-ons, there are plugins you can add. So I maintain one that allows you to run with headless Chrome in Travis CI. In fact, that may be what will solve this issue here. Headless Chrome has geolocation because Chrome has geolocation. And so, Phantom.js may not support that. But I also have support for Circle CI, which is another build service that continuous integration service that has some good free options even for private projects. I think you can have one build happening at any time on Circle CI for free. So with that, I'm going to press on unless there are any other questions about this. I know that this wasn't the smoothest part of the exercises today, but considering the pain that is required for typically setting up continuous integration and testing where you're just opening pull requests and hitting the merge button, like to get all of that automated and sending code out to production, that is typically a challenge. And it typically is a huge time investment. So the idea that we were able to get this going and to identify that there's test failure here, and we'll have it deploying continuously, certainly within the next hour or so. That's a huge win.
Do we need this running and deployed to do the next few things, or?
You do not, but I still wanted to cover it. So don't worry if it didn't work. I would love to work with you if you're interested in figuring out what went wrong. This is an area of Ember that I've had specific and particular involvement with in making sure that the story for CI/CD is reasonably good. We have a lot of cooperation from Travis and Heroku, both Ember shops, both Ember and Rails.